The NFL is filled with players that have what you might consider character concerns. These are guys that have made it to the top of their profession, not because they are the best teammates or exceptional leaders or anything like that, but because they are extremely talented and their production between the lines outweighs the negatives that comes along with having them in your organization. Now, just because a player can make it to the NFL and earn prestigious honors like all-pro selections and trips to the Pro Bowl doesn't mean that he'll stick around with one team for his entire career. This is proven to be exceptionally true when it comes to these troubled stars, because there is a certain inertia to the distraction that some of these star players become the longer they stay in the city. And some of their antics, which may have originally been seen as playful or harmless, quickly grow old, or they escalate, eventually turning into something that is beyond reproach. And the next thing they know, they are shipped out to another team for far below market value, or depending on the severity of the player's transgressions, they might even be cut. While the drama to these stories has been magnified with the rise of player salaries and fame, this has been happening since the beginning of time. The spoiled superstar, the team cancer, the player who at his best can lift a franchise and at his worst tanks it. The Terrell Owens type. Think about it. There is no reason that a player as insanely talented as Terrell Owens was in his prime should have been bouncing around the league as much as he was. I mean, the guy led the league in touchdowns 3 times and had 5 first-team All-Pros in a span of 8 years, yet he played for 6 different NFL teams during his career. Something is not adding up here. Anyone who followed the NFL during the 2000s knows why, though. T.O. was electric in whatever city he played in, but it never lasted more than a year or two. Then it was complaints about the coaches, the quarterback, whoever really. Anyone except the man in the mirror. For our younger fans, it is probably pretty similar to what we have seen unfold with Antonio Brown over the past couple of years, just without the social media craziness. Although looking back, I can only imagine what kind of shenanigans Terrell Owens would have been pulling on Twitter and Instagram if they had been invented during his prime. He might have made AB look like a model citizen. Anyway, just because we tend to think of these diva wide receivers like Antonio Brown and Terrell Owens, when it comes to discussing ill-tempered superstars, does not mean that it is the only position group that can develop attitude problems. If anything, these wide receivers just get criticized the most for doing so, while other guys, some of whom are still playing in the NFL and have been way worse teammates, continue to fly under the radar, either because of the position that they play or their relationship with the team owner or the local media. And the lack of accountability allows them to continue their careers unburdened by any concern for the well-being of their teammates and coaches. Because they are Teflon, none of the selfish storylines that seem to swirl around them can stick. There is one player that, perhaps, fits this archetype even better than anyone else in the NFL, and he is truly the NFL's biggest secret pain in the butt. That man is none other than the Pittsburgh Steelers veteran signal caller Big Ben Roethlisberger. Although Roethlisberger comes across as the dull but strangely relatable oaf of a quarterback, if you look back at his track record, he has gotten away with behaviors that have gotten many other players disciplined and even pushed out of the league before. And this goes way beyond his unlicensed motorcycle crash in 2006. That crash is viewed by many as a turning point in Roethlisberger's complete loss of self. It's the point when the small school quarterback, who clawed his way from relative obscurity to become a first-round draft pick, the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, and a Super Bowl champion all in a few short years, started to undergo a drastic character change. It is thought that having all of that success in such a short window of time sort of warped his relationship with reality. I mean, think about the timing of that motorcycle crash. Roethlisberger was just 5 months removed from becoming the youngest quarterback to lead a team to a Super Bowl victory. And there he goes, riding his black 2005 Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle, helmetless and without a permit in downtown Pittsburgh. Sure, the driver of the car that he collided with was cited for failure to yield to the right-of-way, but that doesn't make Roethlisberger's actions any less reckless. Nor does it give him permission to go on national television and start telling bold-faced lies about the incident like he proceeded to do.
I remember seeing one car turn in front of me. I don't remember the car that hit me, but I remember the first car turning in front of me.
The battered QB gave his first television interview nearly a month after the accident with ABC's Good Morning America and then with Susie Kobler and ESPN. He said he was told by responding paramedics that he ruptured a major blood vessel in his mouth and was minutes away from dying. And while all that was true, the notion that he had a license, that he only rides a Harley with his friends, and that he would never ride without a helmet again was all completely fabricated.
I was supposed to actually take my helmet with me that day because I was going to get it painted to match the bike. And I forgot it because it was downstairs in my basement.
But then a funny thing happened. Everyone just kind of let it go. So what if he lied? So what if he has been spotted multiple times riding a sport bike without a helmet? After all, it's lovable Big Ben. He didn't mean any harm, right?
So you were not wearing a helmet that day. You sometimes wear it, but you sometimes don't wear it.
Correct.
Why would you not wear it all the time?
Well, because it's one of those choices that I make.
Well, as it turns out, the more fame and fortune he gained and the more passes he was given, the more that the humble Ohio kid in him started to fade out. And the more that the selfish, entitled persona of Big Ben that he had crafted for himself started to take over. And once this invincible, greater-than-everyone outlook took over, Ben turned into a completely different person who, honestly, put himself way above his teammates and other people. Sadly, Ben's actions, which at first only seemed to be hurting himself, and obviously the Steelers and their fans, started to become much more malignant and affecting other people's lives in a very real way. Like the allegations he faced in Lake Tahoe back in 2009 following an incident that took place during a weekend celebrity golf tournament when a 20-year-old woman said that he forced himself on her, and again in 2010 when a similar incident took place in a capital city nightclub. But the point is, people quickly forgot about all of it, and they let him continue to play on completely unchecked. I mean, even if the sheriff that was investigating the second case was on record denigrating the victim, and he never even basically bothered to question Roethlisberger. According to the report filed by the department, Roethlisberger acted completely indifferent during one questioning session and was so unengaged that he spent most of the session just staring down at his phone like he was in the principal's office and not the police station where he was facing very serious charges. While Roethlisberger was suspended by the NFL for violating the league's comically vague personal conduct policy and subsequently ordered to undergo a league-mandated professional behavior evaluation and any subsequent treatments that were recommended by the evaluators, many felt that to some degree Big Ben got off pretty easy, all things considered. After all, there were no real repercussions. He missed out on a few game checks, and just like that, he was slotted back into the Steelers starting lineup. It's naive to think that this did not rub some of the players on the Steelers the wrong way. I'm sure that they wondered how differently the situation would have been handled if the player that had committed the transgressions didn't have the career resume that Big Ben had. Check out what one of his longtime go-to targets, Hines Ward, had to say about the whole thing when he called the suspension justified. Ward's comments were as follows. When you're in the quarterback position, everybody looks to you, and there are certain situations you can't put yourself in. By Ben going through this, he'll come back a different person. Doesn't exactly sound like he was pining for the public to immediately forgive him, nor does it sound like he necessarily thinks that Roethlisberger was deserving of such forgiveness, not without some very serious changes to his outlook and his behaviors. Based on how the past few seasons have gone down in Pittsburgh, I'm hard-pressed to believe that Roethlisberger has made any of the grandiose changes that his teammates, coaches, and even Steelers owner Art Rooney were begging him to make. Obviously, both Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell had their own drama going on with the Steelers ownership, but to think that Big Ben was completely removed from these situations is foolhardy. The franchise quarterback, which Ben Roethlisberger very much is, and has been in Pittsburgh for over a decade and a half now, has an impact on every corner of an NFL franchise, at the very least. Roethlisberger was complicit in souring the team culture that allowed the Brown and Bell situations to spiral out of control, and at worst, he may have even exacerbated the situations because both Bell and Brown saw Roethlisberger acting completely without regard for the rest of the organization time and time again. So they figured to themselves, if this guy can do whatever he wants just because he's a good player, why can't I? And while Roethlisberger seemed to have a somewhat amicable relationship with Le'Veon Bell, it has become abundantly clear that Antonio Brown did not care much for the grizzled QB. Brown believes Roethlisberger was one of the worst teammates he ever had, and I think what frustrated him even more was ownership's proclivity to make the quarterback seem and feel untouchable. And I think that Brown has a point here. I mean, Pittsburgh general manager literally went on NFL Network and not only asserted Ben as the unquestionable leader of the team, but went as far as saying that he has 52 kids under him, quite honestly, which, if you ask me, is an incredibly disrespectful way to view a collection of grown men that are pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the franchise. While it is tough to tell what is truth and what is myth, in the weird world of Antonio Brown, his complaints about Roethlisberger seem measured, at least for AB standards. He explained that the Steelers ownership's insistence to treat Ben with kid gloves has only furthered his entitlement, and he now feels like he's the owner. He described one film session during the 2018 season when Ben belittled him in front of the team completely pardoning himself from any responsibility on a crucial interception against the Broncos in an important late-season game. Here's how Brown explained it. "We lose the game, he's like, damn, AB should have ran a better route. The type of guy he is. He feels like he's the owner. Bro, you threw the to the D lineman. What the F? I'm over here wide open. You need to give me a better ball." Doesn't exactly sound like the kind of discourse that a real leader would be having with his teammates, does it? Even if Antonio Brown is not the most reliable account, there are countless others who have played with Roethlisberger and cited his off-putting behavior. Perhaps the worst of all was the claim that Josh Harris, a former Steelers running back, made. Harris depicted an incident that took place back in 2014 when Todd Haley was still the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. During the final minutes of a game against the divisional rival Cincinnati Bengals, Roethlisberger was livid that Haley called a run play instead of a QB kneel. According to Harris, he rolled his eyes in the huddle when he got the play call and then proceeded to intentionally fumble the ball in an effort to make Haley look bad for calling a run play at the end of the game. Haley and Roethlisberger always seem to be at odds, but to think that Roethlisberger would intentionally fumble in the middle of an actual NFL game really takes the feud to a whole new level. But that's how it has gone in Pittsburgh for the past 15 years. Ben can get away with pretty much anything, and either the ownership or the coaching staff will just sweep it under the rug and blame someone else. Todd Haley is gone, Antonio Brown is gone, Le'Veon Bell is gone, but the common denominator, Ben Roethlisberger, is still firmly planted in the middle of the Steelers universe. Who do you think is the NFL's biggest jerk? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by hitting that subscribe button down there as well. Until next time, tune in to TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you.